and Haynes, I think, has been the most aggressive of them, that stopped the JAG officers from doing their proper roles and stopped them from functioning independently. And we've seen them stand up and exercise independent judgment repeatedly. In fact, the first conflict that they had with Haynes was over the torture memoranda. And that memorandum that was described resulted in an order issued December 2nd, 2002 by Donald Rumsfeld that authorized torture techniques.
Have we ever seen this kind of mass standing up before among military lawyers?
Absolutely unprecedented. In fact, I'd say most recently when the Bush administration put forward the Military Commissions Act, which the JAG lawyers didn't even get to see until 48 hours before it was put forward on Congress. The judge advocates general of the 4 service branches went to Capitol Hill and testified against the legislation put forward by Gonzales and Jim Haynes. That's never happened before in history.
I wanted to read a quote of Colonel Morris Davis. He wrote a February 17th op-ed piece in the New York Times called "Unforgivable Behavior, Inadmissible Evidence." He said, "Why a few others in positions of power still find it so difficult to admit the obvious about waterboarding is astounding. We can never retake the moral high ground when we claim the right to do unto others that which we would vehemently condemn if done to us. Once we condemn and stop all waterboarding, what do we do in cases where it was conducted? An obvious step is to prohibit the use of evidence derived by waterboarding in criminal proceedings against detainees."
Well, he's stating essentially the prosecutor's dilemma. You know, he was charged with prosecuting these cases. He knew that waterboarding and other highly coercive techniques had been used on the people he was prosecuting. He was presented with their confessions to use as evidence, and he knew ethically and legally he couldn't do that. I think there's another very important thing that's latent in that statement and was also charged very recently by Lieutenant Commander Charlie Swift. He pointed to the fact that these proceedings are going forward within a week of the time that we see official after official of this administration, including President Bush and the head of the Office of Legal Counsel and Attorney General Mukasey coming forward before Congress and other international fora to justify waterboarding. Why are they doing that? They're doing that because they know that this hangs in the background of these proceedings in Guantanamo, and they want to press forward for the use of this coerced evidence, which is really going to taint the proceedings and make a mockery of them and embarrass the United States in the eyes of the world.
Ross Tuttle, you're also working on a piece on Binyam Mohammed, another prisoner at Guantanamo.
Correct. That's how I started on the story. It was a documentary I had been working on for an ACLU documentary series that covered rendition, extraordinary rendition, torture, and habeas corpus. Binyam Mohammed had, according to his own account, been a victim, well, had fallen in all 3 of those categories. He has now been in Guantanamo for about 4 years. Prior to that, according to a lengthy diary that he transcribed to, or that he told to his lawyer, Clive Stafford Smith, he had spent 18 months in a Moroccan prison as a victim of extraordinary rendition, being grievously tortured. The account that he provided to Smith then got out. It was declassified, and it's really horrifying when you read it. And there are a lot of details that corroborate the claims that he makes. A lot of people have researched it, looked into it, and there is a lot of corroborating evidence. But I mean, if even a fraction of what he says is true, it's really, I mean, it's a really horrific thing that he's endured. And so I just felt like that his story needed to be told. I mean, I felt like a lot of people who are still in Guantanamo, who are languishing, who are awaiting trial, I mean, they just, you know, according to their lawyers, I mean, they're just hoping, they just want a fair trial. They just want something to be able to, you know, they want to be able to face their accusers. And I felt like that was a story that had been not necessarily forgotten, but it just had kind of fallen out of the headlines. Not many people were paying that much attention to it. It felt like in Europe, a lot of people were really focusing on this issue. And the story really disturbed me and was, yeah, it was troubling. And that was the story that I initially sought to tell when I contacted Davis.
Well, Ross Tuttle, I want to thank you for joining us, LA-based freelance documentary filmmaker and journalist. His piece is on the Nation website at thenation.com. It's called Gitmo Trials Rigged. And Scott Horton, New York attorney, specializing in international law and human rights, legal affairs, contributor to Harper's Magazine, where he writes the blog No Comment. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. We'll be back in a minute.